Hey folks, welcome to Market Technical Analysis by InTheMoneyStocks.com, your leaders in pure technical analysis, avoiding all that Wall Street hype. Today, Monday, May 12th, 2008. Well, as we get into today's video, I first want to make the announcement about the webinar coming up next Saturday. And again, just to reiterate, that would be on, let's see what we got here. Looking at the calendar right here that you all can see, you can see it's going to be on May 17th at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, you can view that on the website, so you all can see that. Alright, folks? But in any case, the webinar is coming up, and we're going to talk about how we make our calls, how we know what's going to happen, how our technical analysis and proprietary techniques revealed that, for instance, on Friday we called the top on oil, and today you saw a $2 drop on oil across the board, and we specially announced the USO as being a toppy play there, and sure enough the USO was down almost $2, and we'll cover that shortly. All this type of play stuff, all this analysis will be covered, a lot of this stuff in the webinar on Saturday, so I encourage you all to join up quickly and get a spot in that, as we can only handle a certain amount of people at one time in the webinar. Alright, and again, that's done online. You log into a room where you see our computer, our charts, our presentation. You dial into a 1-800 number, which we give you in an email after you sign up before the webinar, and it's a live interactive thing. You talk to the pro trader and teacher, and he'll walk you through anything you have. Now let's get into this market, because we did see a nice little update today, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So number one, let's take a look at this market here. The Dow was up about 130 points, or 1%. The Nasdaq had a strong day, and tech continues to see money flow. And we've said this over and over the past month or so, since we first started seeing it, that technology has now become the leader. Financials did rally today as well, but the Nasdaq was up about 43 points, and the S&P was up about 15 or 1% as well. So again, a nice little rally, and on the SPY, we'll cover the intraday first, but we'll just talk about the SPY in a minute or two. But number one, you can see that I'm not going to talk too much about this chart. It was a beautiful chart on the intraday 10-minute ES, and really what you can see here is you had a little bit of downward momentum with a little bit of a slight bit of an M, but notice where it comes into the moving average right here, and then sells off here, and then from this point on, really right around 10 o'clock, rally central. Alright, so you had a 10 o'clock reversal, and there are key times throughout the day that are known for being reversals of trends. 10 o'clock being one of them, and there's a bunch of other ones. And again, we'll cover all that in the webinar that you guys will join up and see. So again, once 10 o'clock came, off to the races. You had a small pullback and then another push, small pullback, and a little bit of a double top. And right here, notice, and let me remove that line here, and well, there we go. And you can see how you got a topping tail at a double top. That's a good short signal on the intraday. And sure enough, you had a pullback right into the 20 moving average, at which point you got another move up, another move down, a little bit of an M pattern, and we traded basically sideways into the close here, near the highs of the day, but off the highs of the day. Alright, and again, this is coming off last week's pullback in the market. And I want to flip to the SPY daily to cover this chart, because this is actually a very important daily chart, as we had talked about on Friday. Remember on the SPY on Friday in the video, we talked about how we had called for a top here in the markets, and you saw a pullback, but it came right into this 20 moving average. So we talked about possible support in this area, and sure enough, we got that little bounce off of that support line today. Now, it's options expiration week, and you guys know we're famous for coining the phrase Whipsaw Wednesday, which is of options expiration week, and it's known for being one of the whippiest days out of the whole month. And sure enough, every day on either side of it is in itself a pretty wild movement. You know, has a lot of crazy moves. So what you are going to see, and what you started to see today, is the market trying to figure out how many people are long, how many people are bullish, how many people are bearish, who can we coax into the market to go long or short, and then which way are we going to flash it on Whipsaw Wednesday and Thursday to make it go the opposite way, to close as many people out of the money on their puts and calls as possible. And that's what Options X Week notoriously is, as the institutional money, the big money out there, is going to whipsaw this market and try to get as many little guys to commit money, one way and then push it the opposite way. That's what it's been, that's what it's always been, and it will continue to be. So here you saw a little move up, and the question is, are they setting this up maybe over the next couple days for a reversal on Wednesday or Thursday to the downside? We feel that as you had this nice pullback into the 20, you may get a little bit of a continued bounce here. We'll have to see, maybe some sideways action, but it's just going to set up for another push lower once this market figures out which way it wants to go in this whipsaw, week of Options X. So again, Options X is this week notoriously a crazy week, and we will continue to watch this, but look for some continued, sideways action here after we got this bounce off. As soon as we break this 20 moving average, watch for more downside in this market. We're not out of the woods yet. There are too many bulls in the camp here as of now. But again, options expiration, notorious for faking people out on the upside or the downside and pushing it the opposite way, so the large money can continue to make do and make their cash that they need to supply their profit margins. All right. Now, one thing again I want to point out, guys, the last 2 days here have been so light in volume. I mean, they've even been lighter than the couple down days we had, which were heavier in volume. But volume continues to be so light. Today on the ES, we did about 1.5 million contracts. That is nothing. When you talk about volume on the ES and the futures, that's nothing. On the SPY, you can see we only did 147 million contracts today, which is, again, very light. A normal day on the SPY would be somewhere in the 200 million range, possibly a little heavier. So again, very light volume, especially on an up-day bounce. When you have such a big move on light volume, you have to really take it with a grain of salt. So even though we obviously thought that there may be a small upside move here off the 20 moving average, be ready for the next downdraft in this market. It may come later this week, all right, depending on how Options X proceeds. Now let's take a little bit of a look at the Nasdaq, because the Nasdaq again has been stronger, and you'll see this in the chart. Notice how the charts differ here, all right? Again, let me flash back to the SPY daily, and then we'll go back to this chart. You're looking at the Nasdaq right now. Now let's go back to the SPY. Notice the fall and then the smaller push-up. On the Nasdaq, on the daily, you have a much bigger push-up, and this is, again, showing that technology is much more in a leading focus right now, all right? And again, since our call on Friday, which I'll cover on the USO, which was a great call on the short side of the USO, you continue to see this type of action pulling money out of the, it seems like money flows coming out of the oil plays, the gold plays, the agri plays, and those things as the dollar continues to strengthen as well. So again, nice move up on the Nasdaq, which continues to show extra strength. You're going to have major resistance up here, even if we should go a little higher on the Nasdaq, major resistance here. The SPY we're going to follow much closer, and this will give us a better angle of what's exactly going on here, as we can see that the SPY got the little bounce off the 20, and we'll watch for consolidation above this 20 before another possible break lower. All right, folks. Now let's take a look at the USO. All right, this is the call from Friday we made. We actually went out on the limb and said, all right, guys, this is the top on the USO. We feel it's topped out here. Oil has topped here in the near term, anyways, and we should see a pretty dramatic pullback in oil. We started to see that today. Remember on Friday I talked about how this is a reverse. This to a lot of amateurs, this candle here on Friday was basically a bottoming tail, but you can't have a bottoming tail at the top of a trend. So in other words, it's faking out the little guy, getting them to jump on board there, and sure enough, you saw the reversal today. So we're going to continue to watch this, guys. We think there is much more downside in oil, although it's going to be choppy. All right, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be choppy. But in the near term, you got to look for oil or the USO to pull back here and oil to pull back to the 20 moving average as we continue to see a nice little pullback, we think, continuing on the USO and oil. All right, so again, great call on Friday as we went out on the limb and called the USO as a top, the oil as a top, and today oil was down about $2, and the USO fell beautifully here. And you can see, believe it or not, they actually gapped the USO down, but pushed it back to go positive, and then really came selling, a little bit of buying and selling, and then sideways action into the close as we're looking at the intraday USO chart right now. All right, so in any case, very interesting action there on the USO. As we finish this video up, folks, I just want to touch on some of the technology that led the way today, and without a doubt, Research in Motion was right up there. And I'll just show you guys the chart on this Research in Motion. It was up $9.20 today after they unveiled their new phone, which is supposed to be just a tremendous, the market received it obviously very well. And you can see the gap up here, and then all day it traded up. Monster move today on Research in Motion. Another stock that was in the moving arena today was Baidu, which is the search engine from China. And again, just a tremendous move up $20 today. Apple was up, but it wasn't up as much as the rest of them. A nice move nonetheless, up about $4.71. And if we look at the daily on that, you can see here it's going to have a lot of resistance on the chart right in this area. Now if it can clear that, it may have a nice little push up, continuing maybe possibly to 200. But again, watch for major resistance coming right in here on the Apple chart. Okay, and also the one thing I would, just looking at this chart, is note is that you have declining volume candles right here, which could signal lack of buying interest up in this area. Alright, so be careful on that Apple, although it does look like if it breaks that high and closes above it, you may see a move upwards a little higher. Nonetheless, a very extended chart from here to here. At this stage of the game, very, very extended. Alright folks, as we wind this video down, I just want to encourage everyone to come by the Intraday Stock Chat, E-Mini Chat, Swing Trade Alerts, and obviously the private consulting. And just to go over what's going on in that chat room, where it's a great audience, a great group of traders, amateurs, pros, all talking markets all day long. Nick and I, my partner and I, lead the chat room with constant market analysis during the day. Wonderful chat. Take care, guys.